Luke, you should be the host now.
All right, so this is the staff meeting for Thursday, May 25th, 2023. We've gone over some internal business. Now we're just going to start our group discussion. So.
Hey, one sec. Let me add I have a trial membership to read.ai. Let me add the AI because it takes better notes than I do. If I know how to invite it. Oh, I guess.
Do y'all usually do like an hour of each, like an hour of business, hour of general discussion, right?
There's no consistent structure. We cover business till we don't have business to cover, and then we move on to
until we're tired of it. Sweet.
I should make this
current events and topics. So
yeah, I got some written down. I'll let y'all go. Anybody has anything?
So it says invite dashboard at read.ai to your Zoom meeting. Note that any attendee can invite, not just the host. Invite people to join. Do I do the email?
Sure.
Okay, you guys go on while
we'll let you work on that. We'll jump in.
Thing.
I know one thing I wrote down that's been a big development. I've seen kind of a trend on Twitter and my own. I know Curt's made some posts is around like Christianity, interacting with some of those folks and what some of the obstacles are, what some of the trends are there. It's been something I've been engaged with for a while. One of the big questions that comes to my mind is kind of like, basically will or can Christianity survive, or should it kind of adapt? Should it kind of evolve? And who can lead that effort? I know I've even talked with Gabriel. We talked about it a little bit. Some of the other guys within NLI, we kind of talked about how could we interface? Because that's a huge part of the right wing, right? That's a huge part of it, especially in America. So that's one discussion I had, one topic. If anyone has anything on that.
It would either survive but just shrink, or they would have to adapt. I don't see it continuing the way it has been going for the past few generations.
Yeah. How do you see it adapting? I know you have an interesting kind of take. What do you think some of the keys are to, what do you think it needs to do to adapt?
Well, one of the things they have to do is, I'm not sure. I think they have to. They have to.
My big thing is like reconciliation with science, right? It's like how do they, if they, evolution in particular has been a big contingency. And this is one thing in my call with Curt, he brought it up. It kind of reinforced a lot of my thinking that Darwinism is what proposed the critical challenge to Christianity. That was a critical moment for Christianity to try to reconcile with Darwinism, maybe reshape, maybe a new denomination that's able to reconcile that. And, he and I kind of agree, like the inability to kind of do so there is what's, kind of created a contention between Christianity and science that,
I'm just not optimistic that it's possible. So it's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, either.
I'm not really optimistic in that.
Yeah, like I don't want to lead that effort because I'm not too invested, but I think someone out there, I've got friends and people who seem to be like they might want to invest in that effort, and I'm saying, here's what I think you need to do if you want to try to make it survive. I'm okay to just kind of say, let's just move on and create something new. But anyway, so that's just some thoughts on that.
Oh, look at that! It actually worked.
All right. Sorry, go ahead.
My question is, what do we need them? Why do we need them to believe in evolution right now?
I mean, we can obviously work with Christians to a large degree, just based on common enemy, common moral values, and so forth. I definitely agree with that. We don't need it right now, and that's why the discussion is really, a lot of it's kind of just about the longer term, like the survival and what it needs to do. And I will say, even in the short term, I think there's problems with their inability to use scientific reasoning for what they believe. Like, for example, I attribute a lot of the development of the left as, a lot of them have parents that are Christian, and because being raised in Christianity and the inability of Christianity to reconcile with things like evolution and science created a lot of millennials and so forth kind of said, okay, well, Christianity is not sufficient. I'm just going to go off and to do whatever I want. And just, then this is where we get this like lack of morality altogether. But if Christians were able to say, provide a more sound structure like we do, hey, here's a reason to be moral based on science. Here's a good, reasonable argument. It's very strong. I think there would be less, there would be more retention. There would be less of this, spiraling into postmodernism and nihilism and leftism and so forth. So I think that's a pretty immediate problem. I don't know.
I mean, it did
The
help,
arguments, yeah, go ahead.
but I think the attack on Christians would have happened regardless. It's because Christians are the same people who are usually like conservatives,
Right.
which is really the target of attack. So they would have found any excuse.
You mean like the left would find any excuse to attack the conservatives? That's I don't know. That's an interesting point. Like, yeah. Well, certainly the how do you say, like the elites or the cultural engineers will find any way to attack families. Will find any way to attack homogeny, conservative values. That is true. But as far as the effectiveness of subverting the youth, I think that if the youth are brought up in a stronger worldview, they will be less susceptible to that subversion. I think that's kind of the argument that I'm making, but I agree with you.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I don't want to steal the show too. If anyone has any, I've got a bunch of different topics written down, but anything y'all want to talk about, we can go in any direction. I'm good.
What could our community offer that community as a solution?
Better arguments.
What problem do you think they're facing that we could solve?
Yeah, that's something I've been talking a lot about as far as how I'm imagining it as a potential effort, kind of a branch or a thread within NLI where we could, as one of these markets that's out there, one of these important demographics that we could interface with. And like I think Gabriel, someone says, yes, provide them with better arguments. Help them understand that we're not trying to take your Bible away. We're not trying to take your ideas away. We're just trying to kind of really reinforce it. We're trying to empower it. We're trying to, help you reconcile your worldview with some of these other key elements like Darwinism, so that it is bolstered. So that's one of the things I've always tried to do, and you can think about it like, hey, what about a new denomination? Christians, I think they all see there's been a ton of different denominations. There's room for new denominations. What if we had what if we could help kind of foster in tandem with Christians? Say, hey, we'll help you kind of develop a new denomination that's more reconcilable, more bolstered. Yeah, that's
you want to give them. So you want to give them the tools to get the woke out of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Want to give them the tools to educate families and their children, to put pressure on the public schools, the government schools, because they are in opposition with the churches and the church's teaching. You want to change their prosecution narrative from Christians are always under attack to families are always under attack.
Yeah.
And that everything the enemy does undermines families as the key political, as the foundational political unit. Individuals are not.
Can we offer them ways to reconcile with a modern age?
Of course we do.
What I mean by that is, I think deep down, when I was a more devout Christian, deep down, I know there's something not right. Like Darwin is already out there, evolution is out there, and we're trying to pull wool over our heads, over our eyes, to not see that, and essentially selectively ignore the evidence.
Right.
So instead of pitting Christians against the modern age and against established science, can we often say, hey, what you do here actually has value. It's not complete value. What you do here, all the things that you guys teach has value. It's just value within the sense of, here's the evolutionary strategy of each of the culture, not so much in the sense that take everything literally, like God created the world in 7 days or whatnot. Yeah, I think that can work for the the leadership of the church, the people who are actually, for lack of better words, have brains to think through all this. And then for the follower, and then they can then adapt the message to the followers.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the full circle effect that I try to kind of communicate to Christians, and it's something that I've gone through. I grew up in Christianity. Obviously, like a lot of people kind of see something's wrong, unable to reconcile with like kind of reality and science, and you kind of break out of it. Of course, that breaking out kind of leaves you in a place of just, all kinds of, relativism, nihilism, and so forth. But eventually, once you understand something like Darwinism, natural selection, you apply that to cultures and to society, and you come full circle and say, oh, hey, well, if Christianity has been around, it must have kind of gone under some kind of selection pressure. What does Christianity provide to a civilization that helps it survive? And this is where you can give it a lot of credit. Hey, this has provided a great source of morality, family, the importance of having kids, some kind of spiritual connection. So there's a lot of good community value. There's a lot of good stuff there.
Scientifically, they have the foundation better than our schools do. And they teach morals, manners, traditions, ethics. That's more important than schooling.
And it's instinctual, it's tradition, it's kind of built in, and that's powerful. We shouldn't try to take that away. And I will say, as part of that, one of the things, and I think I talked to Gabriel about this a little bit several weeks ago, which is kind of accentuating that a lot of the good of Christianity is kind of tied to Europeanism, to Hellenism, to Germanism. Like there's a lot of connections there. You just the idea of the Protestant work ethic, helping them understand that like a lot of these values are tied into their ancestry and their lineage and the importance of that. I feel like one big thing that Christianity does is almost kind of severs that connection and kind of makes people feel like they're so obsessed with the Abrahamic cultures and the Semitic lineage. And I think they totally overlook their own. And I think, and again, so there is a connection there. That's another thing that could be highlighted.
Well, in Christian
That
church,
would give you a bit of negative results, though. So doing that, saying that to them.
Interesting.
What kind of negative results?
You're undermining their dependency on Christianity. When you say that.
Well, can we rebrand
that the good things about them? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that can we, because not in Catholicism, obviously, but in modern Protestantism.
That's a big one, yeah.
In Protestant church, we've been harped in that Martin Luther started revolution, and that the Protestantism is the right Christianity, right? Can we help the Christians to adopt a new frame and saying, well, this is really Germanic. This is not about Israel.
Hell yeah. I like that.
Now,
Germanic.
of course, then that kind of connects to like, well, are you still connected to Jesus, who is a Jew, and so on? And
well, there's people. I saw a tweet yesterday, and I've seen some like this that claim that like that Jesus and Adam and so forth were actually like Celtic or were European and so forth. And it was like this huge wall of text. And I've seen memes out there that describe this effect where it's like people kind of trying to like right-wing people trying to justify like why they worship an Abrahamic lineage. So I don't know, there is some potential there. I know some Orthodox guys who believe that. So
is that just another adaptation of Black Jesus?
I mean, the white Jesus that's known today is the white Jesus that's known today in all the paintings and even in the Renaissance. That was already a major adaptation. Why can't we keep going? Why can't we make Trump Jesus, American Jesus? Like this is something like military Jesus, like make a whole set of NFTs or something. Anyway, sorry, that's pretty that's probably sacrilegious, but
yeah, definitely don't go to the Christian church with that. Don't start with that. Obviously,
if your goal is to put or to get the church under less attack, you don't bring the Germans and they're the Jews to the church to get them under less attack.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Yeah. Maybe Hellenic, if anything. Yeah, we'll give some time.
You're not gonna fix them by convincing them they're broken, right? We have to offer solutions. So we have to.
Well, I mean, a lot of times that's how
that they have, not a problem that we're telling them they have, a problem they recognize they have.
Right.
And they recognize that they have the problem of their whole identity is under attack. So how do we help them solve that problem?
Yeah.
By telling them to change their identity, that's not going to solve their problem. That means we're just another vector of attack.
That's true. And like you said, tools to defend themselves, tools to defend their families, their communities, tools to pass on their values, how to connect with their children, how to kind of almost like, I'm not trying to change their philosophy. It's just, hey, here's some translations maybe. Like think about, if you're going on a mission trip and you're witnessing to someone in a different country with a different language, you have to translate the word. Maybe here's a set of symbols that you could kind of translate into scientific terminology to reach out to your secular kids or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, because intuitionistic and moral language can't really beat pseudoscientific language, and that's what they're up against. So we have to give them the language, the words, the terms that they can translate what they see as like their philosophy, their ethics, all these good things that Christianity gave us, translate that into a more adapted form
Objective
that they can
language,
use. Yeah, they can use to defend themselves or against these attacks from the left.
Very good. And there seems to be already a good deal of that within Curt's work, like within the website. There's already, a lot of our effort is that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of an adaptable, objective, efficient language.
Yeah, we just have to market that to them and tell them like, hey, we have this. We're not attacking your philosophy, your ethical system, or whatever your beliefs are. We're actually telling you you can say this, you can communicate this in a way that would actually benefit you more than what you have done up until now.
Yep. Yeah, because they definitely see the struggle. I mean, the church I grew up in my local community here, I mean, they've struggled. They've lost a lot of attendance. Obviously, they're losing a lot of the kids, and the young people there's not a lot of retention there. So I think they definitely see the need, and I think they are open to suggestions and probably becoming more open to suggestions as things get worse. And so, yeah, we can definitely be prepared and can market in that capacity. Very good. What do y'all think about the a pivot? What do y'all think about the DeSantis bid? Any thoughts on that?
With Elon Musk yesterday, right? He was
yeah, on Twitter. Yeah, someone joked about what if Elon's like his VP? That would be interesting. That actually would give me my vote. I've been kind of turned against DeSantis ever since he signed that like legislation in Jerusalem or whatever. But that could be interesting. Yeah, if he would partner with Elon, that could be a very good move.
At this point, I think regardless who's in office or who's in Congress and so on, it's the trajectories are eternal, right? They're just managing the decline.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in getting the biggest disruptor in there as possible. So I don't care.
DeSantis is not that disruptor.
The biggest and orangest disruptor.
Yeah.
Well,
I care far more about the impact on our opponents than I do about the impact on me from that office. I already work as hard as I can to minimize the impact that government has in my world. So putting an effective governor in place is irrelevant to me. I want the impact to land on my opponents.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like we're not addressing the problem of the government is too big. We're just like changing the person who sits on the highest share up there.
Throne,
yeah.
I want whoever is driving the bus to be driving that bus towards my opponents.
Yeah. What do y'all see happening? 2024 is going to be crazy. We can definitely exploit and target a lot of this chaos. We can be prepared to to kind of make the most of it. Like kind of like Brandon was saying about the way like Christian nationalists are going to have an event that's going to cause some fallout. It's going to cause some chaos. We can be positioned to leverage a lot of that. So how do y'all see this playing out? I mean, is it going to be worse than 2020 and 2016, or is it going to be similar? Is there going to be something like BLM that comes up and defines this? So, it's going to be very interesting to think about.
It's going to be an increase in lawlessness, which gives us an opportunity to position the law.
Yeah.
Should we do the Kyle Rittenhouse approach?
Show up and defend the commons? Yes.
It seemed to work for him, but yeah, it is risky. Yeah. Well, another big thing that came out.
That was an only adult situation. He was the only adult there. Like Weinstein was the only adult at his college.
Yeah. What about this whole there seems to be this whole white nationalist stunt with the guy the kid crashing the U-Haul into the White House at like 5 miles an hour, and there's like nothing but a Nazi flag in the back, and the kid wasn't even white. And Biden's been like going after white nationalists and stuff, like he's been kind of saying this is a big problem. And then the Patriot Front marches on the Capitol. I see some like coincision here. I don't know how much of it is coordinated or naturally occurring or what all. I'm seeing some trends here. I thought I might bring that up as well.
False flag operations.
Exactly. I mean,
It's just getting more and more ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
They're not even trying to hide the fact that
I know. Yeah, it's definitely the absurdity in the clown world peaks every day. I definitely agree, Francis. Definitely false flag is the obvious reaction to the kid crashing the thing in. Like, come on, like, and then the cops go and lay the Nazi flag out on the ground so reporters can like take their pictures and they're like posing for it. And then of course, like I said, the kid's not even white. I think he was like Indian or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Indian.
But there are these articles that are saying, and this has been a trend for a while, which is that these white nationalist movements aren't just white people. Like they're drawing in a bunch of people. That's a very interesting kind of phenomenon that's happened. Like who was it? Who was the one big group? The Proud Boys. The Proud Boys had a Hispanic front man, I think. So that's just like a very interesting phenomenon, the way these different demographics and identities are playing out in a way that is like antithetic to the way that probably the left want. They want to kind of polarize and divide everybody, but now you've got like you've got people kind of coming together under the same banners, even if it's absurd. Oh man.
Well, the thing we should learn from this is the left can explain everything to anyone, no matter how absurd it is. And
right.
Our job is to explain it better and truthfully. So.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's not surprising to me that there's some sort of alliance against the left, because it's increasingly clear that it's a coalition of bio-Leninists and satanists and whatever.
Yep.
There are obviously people in minorities, women who don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, they so don't want to be part of that. They're like, fine, I'll go join the white nationalist movement as long as I get rid of these people. That's hilarious. Oh, you got a kitty cat. My cat's around here somewhere.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing, right? Because as the left drives groups further, basically they alienate everybody to their right. It just means that the right can form a bigger alliance.
Yeah,
that's true, but we then have to be cautious that those that would form an alliance with us don't move us leftwards.
Yeah, you can come to us. We're not gonna. Yeah, we can work with you, but we're not gonna. Yeah, we're not gonna abandon our morals and our position. I've even seen a lot of people that were kind of pretty middle, almost like middle left or even left, who have kind of started to see the problems in their own groups, like this whole cancel culture and this whole self-victimization and the absurdity of all this identity politics and gender politics and so forth. I mean, it really is hard not to wake up to it. And what we are doing is, I've used this analogy several times as far as different strategies to kind of convert or to change things in general. There's like the fire tactic, which is just totally be antithetic and burn everything down, attack your opposition. There's the water approach, which is just, hey, open new avenues for these like tensions to flow. And as people on the left or people in general realize that what's going on is absurd and terrible, that we open these avenues that say, hey, we're aware of this, and here's a place for you to come have like minds. And so I think that's another good approach. It's definitely working in our favor. As things get worse, our movement gets stronger. What else did I write down here? Another thing I wrote down was about women, about how we can, obviously a lot of this kind of thing we're talking about, people kind of becoming aware of what's going on. A lot of women are kind of waking up to it as well and saying, there's been a lot of traditional identification with women with like kind of leftist movements and so forth, but even they're finding this is, like for example, like the TERFs, like the trans exclusionary radical feminists, for example, like even the feminists are like, I don't want to identify with this kind of stuff. And so they're making efforts to kind of move away. And so of course, a lot of our work is like identifying the gender differences and how a lot of the inherent kind of like, I would say, feminine principles can be negative in certain positions, but I think there is still a lot of potential to kind of I don't know, I guess form diplomatic and healthy kind of dialogues with women. Yeah, and
Just
how
get them pregnant.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
what I said previously. If they want to come to us, they can be TERFs. They have to be just TERFs, no feminism.
Right. Well, and a lot of it comes around the definition of feminism. Like if you talk to a feminist and you get them to define what they care about, what are their values, you know, I feel like the PR around feminism is so bad these days that most don't identify with it. But I think, you know, most women do want to push for a lot of the, you know, kind of, I don't know, just kind of like like just rights and, you know, respect and just baseline kind of values for women. Yeah. And I don't think that's too much to ask. And yeah, so I agree. Yeah. You know, we
Well,
have
a lot of it relies on false narrative, how they were historically treated.
Yeah.
We have to,
Being a mother makes females valuable.
yes.
Mhm.
That's the message you have to tell them, that being a mother makes you valuable. You don't have inherent value as anything but a mother.
Because everything the industry is pushing, or the narrative is pushing, is the complete opposite. You know, go make PowerPoints, like your job defines you, your accomplishments define you, your social influence, you know, anything but family, anything but having kids define. Yeah, I agree.
I think here's a couple of key points, right? So women inherently have value in human societies based on the potential that they can give birth to the new generation, essentially give the society a future, right? We men obviously cannot do that. Now, of course, it takes a pair, but you know what I mean. And that's why women have value, and modernity have put them in this. It basically made them into less competent men by pitting them against men in the realms of men. And second of all, I think the most important point here is that women are not our enemies.
Right.
And I see a lot of people on the right, especially disenfranchised men on the right,
Exactly.
tend to paint that picture.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, like, we cannot win this if we pit women as the enemies.
Agree.
And even if we win, it's not gonna, it's gonna be a pyrrhic victory.
Yeah, it's like, you know, Curt talks about, it's funny, like these ideas of like separating from our enemies and stuff. And at some point, like there are a lot of gender differences, but like, you know, if you try to separate society based on men and women, yeah, like you're not going to get very far there. So that definitely has to be one of the key areas to be diplomatic and kind of build the bridges. And of course, and through our own relationships, and so in our own families is probably one of the best ways, you know, probably the best way to do that.
People are still measuring too much with an associative bias. What I like this person, what I not like this person. All the movements permeate with it, whether you're for whites or for women or for men, etc. It's like, I don't like most people. There are 8 billion people on the planet. I won't know most of them, and I don't like most of them. You know, I don't like most whites. I don't like most women. I don't like most children. Everyone's set up that way because you can't like most of them.
Right.
Not even close.
You're not supposed to. You're supposed to just have your tribe, you know?
We have to remain compatible with one another, and we're trying to spread universalistic intuitions across people who don't share them. So
I don't think it's wrong to say that in this environment, women are political enemies, but of course we need to change that.
Yeah.
But that's an environmental issue, not a women issue.
I divorce women and children from violence. That's what men should do.
He's just like, I divorce women.
They don't have a place adjacent to violence. That's you being derelict in your duties as a man, not protecting the women and children. Politics is adjacent to violence, period. And if it's not that serious, meaning the people in politics aren't having conversations like this could come down to a violent dispute, they aren't politicians.
Agree. They're just bureaucrats. One thing I want to come back to something Francis said about how we've kind of undermined or lost track of the value of women, especially as mothers. Andrew Yang pointed out something pretty key, which is that, of course, our company being heavily arranged, around kind of capitalism and markets, kind of put something like the GDP, or like, someone's individual earnings, like monetary earnings, is like a big part of their value, to the point where we've lost sight of the value of child rearing. Like whenever when a mother does not work and stays home to raise a child, it's almost like, if you're measuring by financial purely output, then you're going to kind of be like, oh, that's not as valuable. But like, just, it's almost immeasurable, the amount of value that goes into spending that time with your kids and making sure you're instilling the right values, to every level, to that individual level, to the family level, the community level, and to upholding our nation. So yeah, agree. That's a big thing.
All economic metrics like GDP, GNP, and so on are incomplete accounting. Did I just find the word? They're not full account. They're not full accounting by nature, right? By
Yes.
design.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there are those things. I mean, if you just take it to its logical conclusion, if we want to maximize GDP, then everybody should be working. Nobody should be raising childs, because children are really just net drain for the first 15 or 18, 20, and maybe even 30 years these days.
Right.
We're trying to push that number way down.
I think actually, we're trying to push it way down, but this is
They're trying to push it
way up.
Yes. Yeah. We're trying to put it down. They're trying to
That's
push
how
it
you
down.
know they're the enemy.
To the output.
Exactly. Yeah. It's this whole, like, you're not even like a functioning person in society until you're like, 21, out of college. And then they slightly, of course, the college debt piece added onto it. Yeah. They're trying to neotenize in a negative way.
And if you just push that to its logical conclusion, then in about 100 years or so, there won't be any GDP whatsoever, because there won't be any humans left. That's what you do if you optimize for GDP to the infinity.
One of the problems we're running into is, as you eliminate disassociation, you eliminate the group status that people can be measured by, and so you're left to the default generic statuses of the financial status. That becomes the only available status metric to use, because you don't have a group norms to measure yourself against it for that status. You can't be a good person and get status for being a good person, because there's no definition of good, because you have no group by which to define good.
Yes.
Right. So as we slam all these groups together, as we eliminate our tribes, as we eliminate our ability to disassociate, we lose all the other status signals that would normally exist. You can't.
That's what Marxism.
You don't have the status of having that 9th kid when everybody else only has 7. Right. I mean, that could be a status signal for a group that's not available now. That norm doesn't exist anymore, because we don't have a group from which that norm could emerge.
Very good.
Right. And so until we get to the point where we stop seeing everybody as our in group, we're never going to have access to those actual status signals.
Perfect.
We're only going to have this default. We're only going to have the signals that apply to everybody, and those are never going to be the correct signals. They're never going to be appropriate signals. They're never going to be adaptive signals. They're always going to be entropic, because they're generic. It's like the one size fits all. The closer you get to something that works for everybody, the further you get away from something that works for anybody.
Right?
I mean, that's just always the case.
What you just meant is that the lowest common denominator signaling is wealth, or the display of wealth.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's common across everybody, and therefore it's actually the lowest common denominator.
Right.
Yep. I was going to say that
it's not even the lowest. It's the only one available at this point. It's not even the lowest anymore. Right. It's just that we lose all the other ones.
That's what Marxism. I said yesterday. That's what cultural Marxism seeks to do. Is explicitly to dissolve those boundaries, dissolve any metrics of status, and that is another big contention that we are doing the opposite. We are trying to create the foundation and the values and the metrics and the culture and the organization to reinforce those values and those status. I think that's so key. I've even been thinking about a lot of ways that we can apply that within our own groups to accentuate the values that we want, and kind of create type of meritocracy and relationship and trust building based on, again, these values like truth, reciprocity, and so forth. So very good.
Well, wealth also wouldn't necessarily be a bad signal, but it is when it's possible to accumulate it through parasitism and
Yeah.
predation.
Agree. And that's where the moral and the reciprocity piece that the culture should, accentuate, it comes in. Like there should be a lot of forces that push back against parasitic behavior, but yeah, like Luke said, those have all been dissolved and there's nothing left to protect it. It's just money's money. However you get it, no one cares. Become ruthless, exploit, do whatever you got to do. So that's certainly what we're fighting against.
That's one of the reasons I kind of push against big tent community, right? You want small tent community, like ours, for example. We offer the law to everybody as a solution. We don't offer the community to everybody. This community is hard to be a part of.
Mhm.
It is a high standard community. You don't get to just walk in and be part of it. And that's what every community should view itself.
Yep.
It requires a demonstration of merit, a demonstration of responsibility, and a demonstration of interest of investment into this community in order for you to be a part of it. You don't just get to be here because you agree with something we said. That's not how you become part of a community. Right.
Yeah.
But the groups aren't seeing themselves that way anymore, right? They see themselves as
inclusive.
We have to get as many people in as possible. We have to get everybody in. That means you are not a group.
Yeah.
That means there's no line between you and not you.
Yeah.
And if you're not drawing any of those lines, you have nothing emerging out of the boundaries of those lines.
It's like Martin said too, like we want to, interface with these people, but we don't want to compromise our position to do that. We don't want to necessarily meet them in the middle, so to speak. This is something I think I said with Curt too. There's this kind of like two-prong or whatever process where you kind of can expand, you can kind of attract more people, the mutation, but you also want to condense it. You want to select, you want to keep kind of applying that pressure to make sure you're not just, that you're still filtering, so to speak. So definitely.
That's why I think we have concentric circles of
influence
or association, right?
Right.
And there's going to be a core group that's very hard to get into. You really need to know what you're doing, and we're not going to drop our standards. And then we have, the middle circle, outer circle, and so on. And eventually, at some point, we just have associates and allies. And this is the point that I try to make. Like, not the allies does not equal to friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Allies just means that we're along the same, we are aligned at achieving a certain goal,
right,
in a certain situation and time.
Right.
We don't have to be friends.
I like this idea of layers a lot. That's how I definitely think about it. It doesn't have to be a hierarchy necessarily, but just the idea that there will be layers and there will be certain requirements of the given layers, as you kind of move up or move out, basically.
Yeah, you look at any organization, there's even ones without defined classes or hierarchies, there's going to be a hierarchy. Even just the loose group of guys together, you're going to have some kind of invisible hierarchy, right?
And I think there's merit to kind of representing or just kind of systematizing it or displaying it or assigning roles, because it's part of what Luke said. It's part of the status. That's a huge part of it. People seek status. It is that's something that people operate on. And if you have a system that has that rewards status, that could definitely incentivizes people. Yeah. Very good.
All right, gentlemen, I need to get ready for my 1 hour driving to work. So I'm going to leave you here. The read AI thing since it's invitee, it should still be there until the last one leaves the meeting. So just let it running, and I will share the notes from that later.
Yep. Thanks for the updates today.
Okay. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Francis. Cool. Well, y'all want to keep partying, or is that not maybe a good place to go? I'm good for either.
Any other topics pressing on people today?
I think the only other thing I wrote down that we haven't talked about really is just kind of a side discussion we had. I think Gabriel and Martin were both involved in something I'm very passionate about, which is psychedelics. I've seen a couple people in this community that are kind of aware. I know Curt's has some kind of discussions about it, about how it's a form of mindfulness, but there are more preferable forms of mindfulness. that was the only other thing I wrote down that I thought might be interesting to discuss this time or at a later time.
We were arguing on Twitter where I can agree with potential benefits, not so much with magical explanations.
Right. Yeah, I know our discussion in particular was kind of talking about like, are there actual entities that you're communicating with? Is there some kind of externality? Is there some kind of objectivity? I think we played out that discussion pretty well. Yeah, it kind of just reels back to the potential, basically. That's been a big thing that got me involved in politics, was saying, hey, there's a lot of potential here, but these things are Schedule 1. They're caution taped off. These things can really help people to kind of break down their brainwash patterns and their indoctrined patterns, and can help them establish new patterns. It can help establish a connection with nature. I think there's a lot of potential there. So I was interested to kind of push that a little bit. You know.
Well, they
Can you influence the outcome, of taking these things?
Yeah, I think
because if you want it to be useful for you, then you have to understand how to influence the outcome.
Yeah, and they can be used both ways. If they can be used to break down indoctrination or to cause indoctrination.
Yeah, they can be. There definitely is some evidence they can be used negatively. But I do think, like you said, Gabriel, I think you can affect the outcomes, especially this is the common kind of idea out there, is that if there is intention behind it, if there is intelligence and research before and after, if you look to integrate the experience, especially if you have a guide or you have a community, that it can be even more powerful.
Which psychedelics?
The ones I have most experience with would be like LSD and shrooms. There's a lot of, I know DMT is another very popular one that's talked about. Some of the other ones that are out there are, like the big ones would be like peyote, ayahuasca. That covers some of the main ones that are within the sphere of what I talk about. So yeah.
They already are experimenting with a lot of those for therapy currently.
Yeah. There's been a lot of good stuff happening. I mean, shrooms, I think, are like legal for research in Colorado. I've got a friend here in Georgia that does research at a graduate level. What else? And yes, they're becoming kind of decriminalized research. The whole MAPS Institute's been doing some good work. I think there might be some potential to partner with some of them. That's kind of there's obviously other groups that we can target first and primarily, but that's something I'm interested in. And I think there could be some common grounds there for sure.
They're a tool that should be utilized through the transition, because people need to change into something that they're not currently.
Yeah.
They're demonstrably not what they need to be now.
And I think that's one of the most powerful tools for basically allowing someone to step outside of their frame or break down their frame, in order to kind of see truth, basically. Yeah.
They can equally be used by the left to make better followers.
Oh, you could use cannabis as an example now.
Yeah.
Legalizing it everywhere, affording it to people recreationally. It's firstly getting high. I mean, the oneness that everyone feels, it's actually being in touch with the lower parts of your brain, not the higher parts. The higher parts are what's developed. The higher parts are what keeps inhibition. The higher parts are what holds context and so on. So you're actually being devolved down into lower circuitry, which is why people like it. You're actually more like an animal. Some people would explain it as a feminization of the mind, meaning it makes horizontal connections.
Well, funny enough, I believe the plant, the cannabis variety, or the cannabis plant that contains THC is the female plant.
It's a frustrated feminine flower.
Very interesting. frustrated feminine flower. I love that. Yeah, cannabis. I would include cannabis in a lot of what I advocate with psychedelics, and I agree there are some of these. Yeah, it's a very good synopsis you gave.
There are dangers when you move the edges of things just a little across a population. If you increase everybody's openness in a time where we need to become more disgust sensitive, like right now,
that's true.
There's a problem. You start to drift in the wrong direction. You start to take on the wrong intuition about things. So
I think it's part of there definitely are these overall trends that we need to be focusing on. But when we think about like the psychological progression of an individual, especially if they have, if they have kind of come up through a form of indoctrination, I think this is really the key area for psychedelics and cannabis and so forth. And what it did for me was to help break that down. And then you kind of build your discriminatory, discriminatory functions on top of that. And that's kind of how I kind of realized I didn't really need this anymore. This helped me break it down. It helped me kind of be open, but then it was up to me to then discriminate and then kind of build the model. And so I just kind of I agree, in general, we need more of that. We need more selection. We don't need more openness necessarily at this time, but it could be that it aligns with some individuals and where they're at in their progression. So very good.
So the question is, what do we take to become more disgusted?
A healthy dose of reality ought to do that for you.
Red pills. Yeah. Oh man. Could we engineer, we, as part of that discussion yesterday, it was like, could we understand these chemicals and what they do to our brain in such a way that we could engineer certain chemicals that would do that would actually like help, create less openness and more like discrimination and more selection. Yeah. That's a good idea. Red pills, blue pills, white pills, and black pills. Healthy diet. That's what I say.
I mean, what the chemicals do to your brain is it makes it more plastic.
Right.
So I'm not sure you can really get that outcome. It's like automatically you become more open.
Yeah. The opposite would require. So you assume like, okay, more plastic means somehow they're like either more neurotransmitters or some triggers have been flipped where there's more activity in the brain, more interconnectivity, more kind of there's less of your inhibitory functions in neurons. So maybe there's some kind of chemical that could enhance your inhibitory functions. That would be that's a very interesting idea. I don't know.
You can target areas of the brain that are associated with like leftist ideas or
lobotomize
things like that.
Lobotomize
like conversion therapy. We can do a conversion therapy.
Shock conversion. I love it. We're onto something here, guys. I love it.
Well, you certainly become more open towards things you were already inclined towards. So right. I recall Eli once sharing in the chat that he tried shrooms, and during the experience, he became a racist.
I mean, I argue something similar. I mean, it puts you in touch with truth. Shrooms in particular will put you in touch with your ancestry and help you realize and connect with, have a sense of like pride and connection and value and understanding your identity. And a big part of that is understanding the importance of that identity as it plays out in our cultures. And so naturally, there's going to be a form of discrimination, positive or negative. It's just going to be, you're starting to recognize that the evolutionary trajectories, that the anthropological backgrounds, that the cultural differences are all very valuable, and that's an uncomfortable discussion for many people to have. But I think we are the best positioned to help open the doors to those discussions because we are so versed in science, and we're able to approach those discussions from a very, Darwinistic, scientific approach. Whereas a lot of the groups having those discussions are just like, simplify it too much hateful charging, so forth. So anyway, very good.
It seems to have some application as a rehabilitation tool. I think I'd like to see us stop breaking people rather than find better ways to fix people.
Yeah, healing. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where I start is what do we do to stop the breaking rather than
people are broken already. Yeah, we don't need to do any more shattering. We don't need to do any more openness.
Because a lot of the connections you're talking about, what's happening is you're removing what's preventing the connection. You're not actually creating a new connection, right? If you give the drug to the infant that has no life experience, it doesn't suddenly create the experience of their ancestry. So what we're doing is we're eliminating barriers between or that are preventing you from having that experience. So what we're doing is we're rehabbing a broken connection. We're not creating a brand new one. So
coincidentally, infant's brain is kind of like brain on psychedelics.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I've heard that analogy that it definitely makes psychedelics make your brain more like that of an infant, and that you're very, you're not inhibited. You're not, you're not categorizing as much. You're not as kind of in this linguistic construct. Really, all of your constructs are kind of shattered, and you're kind of taken down to that base consciousness, for better or worse. Yeah, very good. I agree. Cool. Well, that's all I had for today.
Anybody else have anything they want to discuss today? All right, we'll wrap it here then. I'll post this recording to the staff channel and we can get it posted whenever we're doing that. So
Cool.
thanks for the talk today, guys. Good to see everybody.
All the way,
Absolutely.
guys.
All righty. See y'all soon.
Bye-bye.